Hello. Today we will be going over graphs. Um, what are graphs? Graphs are basically they're kind of like binary trees, but they're just a less structured binary tree. Graphs are composed of nodes called vertexes or vertices and edges. Vertices are the nodes, and then edges are the ones connecting the vertices within the graph. There are two ways to display relationships between your. I keep wanting to say nodes. There are two ways to display the relationships between your vertices. There's an adjacency list, which is where we start at a random vertex. We'll say A, and then we have a list of whatever vertices it's connected to. So in this case, vertex A is connected to B and C. So we would display that next to it. B is connected to A, C, and D. And so we would display all those next to that. And then D, excuse me, D is only connected to B, so just B, D, and B. And there's a adjacency matrix where you display your vertices in a grid, kind of like Battleship is how I think of it. Um, and then much like up here in the list, A is connected to B and C, and you just mark it with a how many connections it has, or I guess would this be the weight? I think it's just the number of connections between the nodes. Um, so A is connected to C and B, so you put a one in the B in A B column and a one in the AC column. Again, B is connected to A, C, and D, so you put a one in the BA, one in the BC, one in the BD. D is only connected to B, so there would be a one in the DB. And that's pretty much the only way to do that. There are two main types of graph. There's a directed graph and there's a weighted graph. Directed graphs, uh, their edges flow in a specific direction. In a weighted graph, it's like a directed graph, but the edges are weighted, so they all have a number value to them. Um, a good use for a directed graph could be like up here in a website where you link your web pages together, which would be really good for building it. And I could have really used that in my capstone project because that would have made the wireframing a lot easier and making designing the UI a lot easier. So, live and learn. And then I have better examples on the next slides. Okay, so directed graphs, they can be acyclic or cyclic. Um, in the cyclic directed graph, every in order for a graph to be cyclic, you would have to have wherever you start from a node, it would have to lead back to the same node. So we have nkj in here, so we go from n to k to j to n, and then we have npmn, so npmn. I guess it's down here says pmnp, but it doesn't really matter because it all circles back on itself. Um, Another little side note is that some vertices can like fold inwards, so you could have M here, and it could have a little arrow, and it could go all the way around and loop back in on itself. That would be considered cyclic too. Acyclic, it's just a normal directed graph, so it just kind of flows however it wants to flow. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. It just goes a direction and it doesn't circle back in on itself. Weighted graphs. So like I said, weighted graphs are like directed graphs, but their edges are weighted. Um, so I guess a good use case for the weighted graphs would be for locations or bus stops or like mapping algorithms, where you have a certain location and you can have a certain number of stops between locations, and each stop would have, I guess if you're going to use a mapping algorithm, it would be miles between locations. So I don't know how to say any of these words because I don't speak French. So let's just go here. So Paris to Nantes would be 1 mile, and then Nantes to Bordeaux would be two, but then Nantes to three. I think these numbers are pretty arbitrary, but you get the point. Um, that would be a good use case for this. Um, it can also be used for time too, I guess, but in this situation, I think it'd be best for miles. Um, what would be a good use case for these? Yeah, whatever. So that's it. That's a really, really simplistic, basic overview of graphs. Any thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns? Let me know.